الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما بارك الله فيكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات وذكر الحكيم أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين واستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح يا فتاح يا فتاح صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم الأمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, it's a great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given me and you the ability and tawfiq to participate in this gathering, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering a source of guidance for all of us, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering one of the means of our entry into Jannah, inshallah. We have started a new chapter in our Seerah series, and this chapter was about the marriage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha and the rebuilding of Kaaba. And alhamdulillah, we started this chapter almost 5 weeks ago. Tonight is going to be our 5th session of the same chapter. And in the first session of this chapter, we learned how Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was introduced to Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha. In the second session, we learned how Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha offered Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take the charge of her caravans and to take them to Syria for trading reasons. And Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam accepted that offer, and when he came back with multiple prophets, and that actually increased the emotions of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In our third session, we learned how indirectly Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha sent a message to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that she is interested in him, and then eventually Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam proposed to Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha, and their marriage was performed, their nikah was performed at a certain amount of mahar, and there were certain things, very very important things that we learn, that we derive from the marriage of Khadija and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we learned in that session. In our final session, in our last session, we learned that what was the age of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha at the time of her marriage. And then we spoke about some of the wisdoms that we derive from the marriage of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tonight is going to be a very very important session, even though it's going to be very short, it's going to be very precise. But it's a very important session, and it's about the blessings of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha. And the blessings of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha are too many to be mentioned in this one session, but inshallah I will try to mention some of the most important, some of the most prominent blessings of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha. Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha was the first one who believed in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She comforted Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as soon as the revelation began. She was the one who said that we should take Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Waraqa bin Nawfal. Let's take him to Waraqa bin Nawfal, let's take him to someone who actually knows what is happening, and then ask Waraqa bin Nawfal that what is happening to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And she was the only wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in whose household Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam would come. Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam would never come in any other household, in any other wife's house. Later on in Madri life, when Prophet ﷺ eventually married to 9 different women, none of these houses, be it Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, Salma, Hafsa, Zainab radiallahu ta'ala anha majma'een, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhi majma'een, Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam would never enter in their houses. The only wife's house Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam ever entered was the house of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. So there is a famous hadith that once Prophet ﷺ was sitting in his house in Makkah, and this was the house of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came, and Prophet ﷺ said to Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha that here is Jibreel alayhi salam, because this is the house of Khadija, and Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam only entered her house, and Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha was there. So Prophet ﷺ said, Khadija, here is Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, and he is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sending salam upon you. And he is giving you a glad tidings that you will have a house in Jannah where there will be no noise and no struggle, and you will be in total peace. Because remember, she was with Rasulullah, which I will mention later on, in the time of great trial and tribulation. She is going through a great struggle. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is comforting Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, and Jibreel alayhi salam is telling Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, you are going to have a house in Jannah where there will be no noise, no struggle, and you will be in total peace. And Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, subhanallah, listen to the response of Khadija. She said, Inna Allah huwa salam. She never said, okay, Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha never said, wa alayka salam ya Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, assalamu alaikum to you as well. May Allah subhanahu wa may salam be sent upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't say that. You can't say wa alayka salam ya Allah, because inna Allah huwa salam, Allah is as-salam. Allah is as-salam. Now you cannot say, okay, Allah is sending salam upon me, so I'm sending salam upon Allah. I've seen many people, a lot of times when they get really happy, something good happens, and they become really, really happy, they said, Jazakallah Allah. They said, Jazakallah Allah. They are making a mistake, even though they are making it innocently. It's an innocent mistake. But they say, Jazakallah Allah. You cannot send jaza to Allah. Allah's jazas come to you. You are in no position to send jaza to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It's a mistake. Even though it's an innocent mistake, but it's a mistake. So Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, mashallah, she was so smart and she was so intelligent and she knew the theology of Islam that she never said, Wa alayka salam ya Allah. Allah assalamu alaikum to you too. What was the response of Khadija? Inna Allah huwa salam. Allah is as-salam. And then she said, Wa alayka salam ya Jibreel. He said, may salam be upon you, ya Jibreel. And then he said, Wa alayka ya Rasulullah as-salam. And may salam be upon you, ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. By the way, there is a fiqhi point which I need to mention here. Even though it's not very important, it's not a masla of halal and haram, but it's something that we need to know. If a third person says, send salam to you through someone. So for example, I'm saying to you that Muhammad or Ahmad or Hamid send salam to you. Now you want to say wa alaykum as-salam. So you don't say wa alaykum as-salam. You say alayka wa alayhi salam. Someone from Pakistan sends salam to you. For example, my father sends salam to all of you all the time. Whenever I speak to him, he says my salam to all of your friends. So when you reply back to my father, you don't say wa alaykum as-salam. Normally we say wa alaykum as-salam. You say alayka, salam to upon you, salam be upon you, meaning me, and wa alayhi salam, and salam be upon. He in Arabic language is a pronoun that you use for the third person. Ka is someone that you use for the second person. So you say alayka wa alayhi salam, and that's the exact same thing Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha said. She said, Inna Allah wa salam, alayka salam ya Jibreel, and she said, alayka ya Rasulullah as-salam. So this is what she said. So her house was the only house where Khadija, where Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam would enter. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha was the favorite wife of Khadija, was the favorite wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the Madani phase. In the Makki phase, when Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam got married to Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, at that time she was not even born. So in the Makki phase, Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam's only wife is Khadija. But in the Madani phase, Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam's favorite wife, no doubt about it, is Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. And Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha never saw Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Yet, she used to say that I never felt more jealous for any woman that I felt for Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. I never felt more jealous of any woman than I am or than I was of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Prophet eventually married 9 women. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha was one of them. She was jealous of all those 9 wives. There are instances, we have them in Seerah, there are instances in which Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said something or did something that shows her jealousy for all those 9 wives. You have Surah Al-Tahrim, Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu lima tuharrimu ma ahallallah. The whole chapter is about this thing that happened in the house of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, and all based upon jealousy. It was all based. So there are things that happened in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, instances in which she said or she did something that shows her jealousy. But she said, I never felt the amount of jealousy that I felt for Khadija, even though I've never seen her. I never met her, I never see her, but I used to be really, really jealous of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Someone asked her, why? Why are you so jealous of Khadija? She said, لِحُبِّ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم لَهَا. Because I knew how much Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved Khadija. She is a woman, she is a wife, she is the favorite wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, I knew it. I knew how much Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved Khadija, so I was most jealous of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. There is a very famous hadith, probably brothers already know, about that hadith. It mentioned in almost all the Sahih books of hadith. And once Prophet ﷺ was mentioning Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha in front of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, and she said, I had enough of it. This was my limit. I couldn't bear it anymore. So I said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, how long are you going to mention this old toothless lady? And she said something out of jealousy. She shouldn't have said it, but she said it out of jealousy. But this shows the nature, the human nature of the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She said, but no disrespect to Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, but she is a woman, she is a wife, and she is jealous. So out of her jealousy, she said, Ya Rasulullah, how long are you going to mention this old lady? وَقَدْ أَبْدَلَكَ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا, despite of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you someone better. She is saying that I'm young, I'm fertile. Instead of talking about me, you're talking about that old lady. How long are you going to mention that old lady? Allah has given you someone better. At this, Prophet ﷺ got really irritated. He got really angry and he said, La wallahi. Remember, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha said that Allah has given you better than Khadija. He said, La wallahi. He said, I swear by Allah, no. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give me anyone better than Khadija. And if you're really irritated, and if you're really asking me why do I keep mentioning her, then let me tell you the list of the things. And then Prophet ﷺ mentioned all the forms of loyalty of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. And Prophet ﷺ said, Amanat bi is kafara bi an-nas. She was the first one who believed in me when everyone rejected me. Allah gave her this blessing, Allah did not give you this blessing. Allah gave her, everyone when they rejected me, she was the only one who believed in me. And then he said, وَصَدَقَتْنِي إِذْ كَذَّبَنِيَ النَّاسِ. When everyone rejected me, when everyone denied me, she was the only one who considered me truthful. Everyone belied me, everyone denied me, she was the only one who considered me truthful. And he said, وَأَنْفَقَتْ بِي إِذْ حَرَّمَنِيَ النَّاسِ. He said, she spent on me all of her wealth when my entire community, my entire family abandoned me. No one was ready to spend on me. She was the only one who spent on me. And then he said, وَرَزَقَنِيَ اللَّهُ أَوْلَادًا مِنْهَا. SubhanAllah. He said, Allah gave me the ni'mat of ulad. Allah blessed me with children through her. Is harramani awlad al-nisa. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give me children through any other woman. She was the only one. Allah chose her for this blessing. None of my other wives, they didn't give me any children. And he said, رَزَّقَنِيَ اللَّهُ. He ascribed this to Allah because Allah is the one who blesses with the children. Right? This is the blessing of Allah. He never mentioned himself. He never mentioned Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me with children only through her. Is harramani awlad al-nisa. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give me children through any other woman. This is the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha said, on that occasion, Prophet was so angry that I learned my lesson. And after that, I never mentioned Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha in that manner in front of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because I understood how much Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam loved Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. One other reason of jealousy, and then I will finish inshallah. One of the other reasons Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha was so jealous of Khadija, she said every time Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would get any kind of gift, any kind of money, even a piece of meat, because remember in those days, a piece of meat was a luxury. Today it's not a luxury. In those days, back in the days of Rasulullah, it was a luxury item. She said every time he would get anything, he would send a piece of that thing to the friends of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Remember, he is in Medina now. He's in Medina 10 years later. Way later on, 10 years later, every time he's receiving any kind of gift, a piece of meat, he would cut that piece of meat and he would send it to the friends of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Can you imagine how much he's missing his wife? Khadija has already passed away. Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha is not there. But he is making a point in his life that he is sharing every single of his gift with the friends of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, with the people she used to socialize with, so that he can have some kind of association, some kind of nisbah with his wife, with his dead wife. And he is missing Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. Upon one occasion, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha mentioned that we were in our house in Medina, and Hala, the elder sister of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, she came to visit Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam heard, it's a beautiful story and I cannot translate it for you. You need to understand Arabic language to understand the emotions behind this story. He said Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was in the house, he heard the footsteps of Hala and he thought that this is the footsteps of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala, because she is a sister. She is the same sister who introduced Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Khadija. She is the same sister who praised Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in front of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha. He heard the footsteps outside his house and the whole demeanor of Rasulullah. Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha said, whole demeanor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam changed and he started shaking because he could recognize the footsteps of Khadija radiyallahu ta'ala anha. When she knocked the door asking the permission to come in, Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha said, I could see the paleness on the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because all the memories came back. She's a sister. So all the memories, he knew that it was not Khadija. He knew that was not just an elder sister of Khadija. But all these memories of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha came and they were so strong. Even after so many years, they were so strong that he was moved to tears and he started crying. He said, that's how I knew that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam loved Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha so much. That's why I was so jealous. And he said, one of the Sahabi, he mentioned it to me, subhanAllah. He said, one of the Sahabi mentioned it to me when Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha passed away. For months, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never smiled. For months, he never smiled. He said, there are very few occasions when we saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam crying with his tears. Number one, when his son, Qasim, passed away. Number two, when his uncle, Hamza radiallahu ta'ala anhu was martyred. And number three, when his wife passed away, Khadija radiallahu ta'ala. We saw him with tears, crying with tears, and for months he never smiled. So this was the love Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had for Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. There are many other blessings. We don't have much time to mention all of them. But subhanAllah, you look into the life of Khadija, this is really true. When people say that behind every successful man, there is a good woman, there is 100% truth in it. It was the mission of Rasulullah. For the mission of Rasulullah, Allah especially chose Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. And Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha fulfilled every single expectation of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In his Meccan period, there was no other wife, there was no other love, there was no other support. Even financial support, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never had. The only support that he had was the support of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. That's why even after 1400 years, we are remembering Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, we are remembering the legacy of Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha. One last thing that is remaining that inshallah I will mention or I will discuss inshallah in my next session is the children of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We will inshallah have a very comprehensive discussion about it. So I would request you brothers kindly to make some time, come and participate in it, and inshallah it will be very beneficial for all of us. Jazakumullah.